Yeah, look at this.
Oh,
Look at all these folks watching. So, guys, let's talk a little bit about Yard. You were just telling me before we started the stream, you had done the Ginger Baker tribute with Steve Gadd earlier this year.
yeah.
And I know, so Sonny Emery was there, and
It was Sonny,
yeah,
Kofi Baker,
Kofi Baker, yeah,
Kenny Jones,
Kenny
Henry
Jones.
Spinetti,
Oh yeah,
and that was it.
that's plenty of good drummers, though.
Yeah.
Ronnie Wood was there. He's actually a drummer as well.
Yeah, Ronnie was there.
Yeah.
We never let him near the kit in case he trashed it.
That's a good idea.
But Ronnie can play a little bit.
Oh man,
I don't doubt it.
Yeah, he's on a Stones tune actually.
That's right. I remember that now.
Yeah.
I'm back in the days of Chooch, rest his soul. Chooch had asked me to send him a couple of cymbals to his studio in Ireland, I think.
Yeah.
And I did it through Bob. Did it through the office in London, and I got a nice note from Ronnie. And then I don't know how much later until I saw him in person again, and Chooch was still around, and Ronnie said thanks. And I just a quick Charlie story. This is funny. And Don, when the gig you guys did in Foxborough a few years ago at the private party for the Kraft family.
Oh yeah, the 150 person party on the 50-yard line.
That was unbelievable. Yeah.
Cool.
So you had left me in Charlie's dressing room, and we were chatting, and we had to go into Ronnie's room for a minute. And Charlie reintroduced me to Ronnie again. And Ronnie said, "Oh, the Zildjian guy, the cymbal guy, or the Zildjian guy." And Charlie says, "Not anymore. Now he plays him." He quit. Now he plays him or something. Yeah, you had to be there.
Multi-talented at this point. Yeah. Good.
Oh man. So I know a lot about how you guys, I think I know a lot about how you guys got started, but maybe you could both talk about kind of how you got started doing what you're doing and what you do so well. And I only named a few guys that you've worked with, but maybe Don, you could talk about kind of how you got started in the business. And
Sure. Well, my dad's a drummer. That's where it starts. It starts right there. And there's instruments in the house, and there's, drums. My house was sort of the band room, so started to play a lot of music with a lot of people, recording and gigging and touring with my own stuff. And then, that doesn't pay the bills too much after a while. So I started talking to some friends in the band NRBQ. So I looked after Tommy Ardolino and bass player Joey Spampanato.
yeah,
Later on, Hail, Hail, Rock and Roll, all that stuff. Worked with the Q for many years, schlepping around there. Moved on to Neil Young, was invited out to that with Chad Cromwell.
yeah.
Handful of good years there. And then, it just sort of rolls into all these other things you do. Start working with Faith No More, Mike Borden, My Morning Jacket, Patrick Hallahan, and a bunch of studio stuff. And I was about ready to go back on the road with either Neil or Wilco or somebody. And our good friend Pierre de Beauport, me and him had been playing music together for about 2-3 years. And he says, "Why don't you come out with us instead? There's a better gig waiting for you." So that was the beginning of 2012.
Yeah.
And I've moonlighted a couple of times, and Yard's helped me out actually a couple of times with Faith No More, helped me out there. So after a while, you roll into that. That's what you do. You're a musician, so I'm a drummer first and tech second. But that's kind of what happens. And you get into these little bubbles with these production companies and touring, and this guy calls you, and this guy, and they're all great. And I've been very fortunate to work for wonderful people, but of course, Charlie's the best. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
I'm a very dear friend,
Well, I just got to say, I remember Pierre. I remember before I'd met you, Pierre had reached out to me about, and you'll remember this, that Charlie and Pierre had seen some splitting on the around the bell, or not the bell, but the Charlie's flat ride, his beloved flat ride.
Yeah.
And they wanted to try to get one made up, or just try to find one. And through maybe he's watching right now, Bruce Whittet, a good friend, Canadian drummer, had one. and he was nice enough to send it, and I sent it on to you guys, and he gave it to Charlie, the same symbol, but of course not the exact same sounding symbol because it's
Similar.
very
Similar,
similar. Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
18-inch,
Sounds fantastic.
yeah, flat ride. But I remember Pierre telling me about you, and he said you're gonna love this guy. You know, he's I know you guys go back a long way, and the first time I met you was at the show in New Jersey in 2012, and he was right. I did love you, and I do.
Feelings mutual. It's all good. Wonderful. I mean, you know, I don't think Charlie wants to mess around with anybody who's not serious about music, you know, and who's there for the wrong reasons, obviously. That's why, you know, the circle of people that he keeps are genuine people, you know.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And Yard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well-
I mean, where do we? By the way, we have Don McAulay, who's Charlie Watts' drum tech, and as you said, many others, and Yard Gavrilovic. Did I mess up the?
Still messed it up.
Still messed it up. I'm too slow with the Rilovic part.
Gotta speed it up.
Yeah, who's worked with more people than I can even think of. But
They only let me have one chance, John. One chance. Then you got to keep rolling.
yeah, so
That's fair.
Yard, I've met you, Yard. I over 30 years ago, or about
Yeah.
probably 30 years ago. But
Yeah.
like it started before that for you, though. Obviously, like
Not that long before,
not
because
one. Okay.
I played in bands, and I got to an age where I thought, yeah, I've got 5 kids here, I've got to go out and earn a proper living. So I kind of gave up and ploughed on with my construction business.
Mm.
And you got to do what you got to do. You can't dream. And but my brother-in-law, who I played in bands with, he was in the forerunner of Iron Maiden, a band called Urchin with Adrian Smith and Dave Murray played in bands from school. And Dave left to join Maiden, and Andy took his place, and it kind of all hooked up from there. And then, so you know, I've known all that lot since late 70s, and so it transpired that as the years went on, he was Corey Hart's guitar player on the First Offence album, and did the US tours. Then he joined Visage FM, and then, you know, he did a lot of session work and things, and he was working with Zak, with Roger Daltrey, and then he worked with Entwistle as well, you know, and that's how I kind of got in, really. And then I ended up working for Zak. I was fitting out Trident Studios in London when Adrian was doing his solo album, because he kind of quit Maiden for a while, and I was in there doing some alterations and stuff. And that's where a lot of the Genesis and early Queen albums were done, all that stuff. And it's quite a famous studio. Yeah. And then you know, Zak said to me, would you come round to my place and do some work? So that's how we got to know each other. And that was all through my brother-in-law. So really, the catalyst of what I do is it comes from Zak and Andy, you know, through their contacts. Because Andy used to live with us at different times and all that stuff. You know, he was great to have around with the kids, and they loved him being there. Yeah. So it kind of, then we started doing pub gigs, you know, and Zak said to me, do you want to do a gig in Camden, you know, on Saturday or Friday night? Because I had a big van. So I go down to his, throw his stuff in and pick up the rest of the stuff. And the more I did, I thought, yeah, I like this. And then someone said to me, we think you ought to do this. We think you'll be good at it. And then the more I did, the more I enjoyed. And I worked it. So I'd go on tour, I'd come home and just carry on with my construction business and do that, chop and change around.
Yeah.
And as time went on, and then I was working with Zak's band Face, which was prior to his Who gig. And with Dan, who works for Eric, we've worked together for 30 years. And, you know, we've kind of done every band together. You name a band and it's like me and him, because he'd be my first phone call. Yeah. If I was doing a production gig, Dan would always be my first phone call, you know, because he's so cool.
He's a wonderful guy. Yeah.
Never loses his temper with anyone. He's always the same mood, and it's great. You know, you need people like that around you. You can't have anyone temperamental; it drives you crazy.
Right.
And that was it. And we kind of grew together, you know. And it's great seeing him do well. And so after the Who, then in '96 we were at Hyde Park with Eric Clapton as headline, and the Who doing Quadrophenia, and so
Zak
we did
was
that,
in
and
the
that's
band at that time.
and that's where I first met Steve Gadd,
Ah, okay.
and he came over to Zak's kit to have a look. You know how inquisitive he is.
Yeah.
And
Hey, man.
so I took him round behind the curtain and gave him a few pointers to push his career on. Steve, you'll never earn a living doing this. This is what you need to do. I got my practice pad out and some sticks. Showed him a few chops. And the funny thing is that I already knew two Steve Gadds. One was the singer where I grew up in a band called Stray.
Yeah.
And they were quite a big band in the 70s. And Andy Fraser from Free went to the same school as them down the road from me. And I'm a huge Free fan, so I'm a big Simon Kirke fan.
Yeah.
And anyway, you know, I met Steve, and then I think it was a little while later, they asked me if I'd go to Japan with Steve and Eric, you know, and we've been together since then.
Wow.
You know? And it's the luck of the draw. And then once you work for these people, it opens so many doors, because they think, well, if he works for him,
Yeah.
he'll be all right.
Yep.
So you don't really have to do too much. You just have to turn up, do what you do, and they kind of leave you alone, you know. But the art of it is to get along with them, and that's the main thing. If they don't like you, you could be the finest drum tuner in the world. You won't stay.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
It's like choosing your friends. So
And
that's really it.
I was going to say, knowing both of you guys, I mean, you're both amongst the very best in the business, but your personalities are such that, like you say, I knowing Steve as I know him, and Charlie, that you guys are like the perfect, you know, guys for these guys to depend on every day, you know.
That's because we like funny people.
Keep us entertained, you know.
It's like watching Cheers.
We're the ones that have to hang around all day to keep us entertained. Yeah.
So I was thinking about this morning, Don, when I was out running. In fact, you asked if I've been out running, and knowing we were going to be talking today, I wanted to make sure I mentioned that last year you pulled off what has to be, I mean, as far as Charlie Watts geeks like myself are concerned, the biggest coup of all. And I won't say getting Charlie, but you got Charlie to try out Coated Ambassador heads. And you sent me a picture of his drums just to show me the kit. And my first response in the text was, whoa, he's playing Coated Ambassador heads. And you said, yep, I forget how maybe you can tell the story, how that happened.
Yeah. It was definitely, it's a cautionary move. There's no doubt. A very cautionary, I mean, you have to do, because, you know, you don't do big changes with Charlie. But I did know that obviously in the 70s, you know, in the 60s, he was playing, well, in the 60s, he was playing more the smooth whites and stuff. But,
Yeah.
you know, he's been on the Ambassador before. And we were going in the studio the second or third time after doing, it was sounding great. The Black Dots were fantastic, but they're really great for live performance, you know, and that to project. But when you get in the studio, they start to sound like glass, you know, they can really be harsh. So I just said, let's just try it. What do you think? And that's a huge move to do that. So we tried it. He loved it instantly. The first thing he said was, my floor tom is back, you know? So I knew I was in the right, I had made the right decision. And so it wasn't much of a change, obviously, but you know, a couple of big things that did happen over past since 2012 was getting rid of the Black Dots on the bottom, doing, you know, clear ambassadors on the bottom for more resonation and a little more projection, a little more tone. And so we switched those over, and then switching over to the coated ambassadors, which are the same exact heads that are on there since the studio session. This whole last tour we did last year. He says, no, let's just do this. We'll switch them again when we go back to the studio or go on the next tour. But I mean, they both sound fantastic, and he can play anything. Obviously, he can play air drums, and he's going to sound fantastic. You know that. So,
Yeah.
But it was really great. It's nice, and the sound of them, just the Gretches, they just relate so well together.
Well, when I saw you last summer, I really could hear the difference. I mean, I know it was a football stadium and all the production, but to your point, you could, the toms, both the mounted tom and the floor tom, they just had so much more life to them. They really just were like, yeah.
A wider tuning range for sure. Definitely a wider tuning range, and just warmer, just that warmer 70s. I mean, those guys with the guitar guys are so lucky because they can change out guitars per song, and Charlie's not about to change out snares per song, and that's not his thing. I mean, so there's a couple little changes, but they're minor changes, per song. But I thought the ambassadors are kind of a great way to just round everything out,
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Hey, by the way, Pierre is watching.
Oh shit!
Is he?
He's right down the street.
Pierre, we all send you our love, and we promise we'll only say nice things about you now that you're watching.
While you're watching.
Hey, Yard, you have a question. I was just let me just see if I can find that question. Vince Wilburn is asking, how did Charlie happen to add the Crash of Doom to his cymbal setup?
Oh man, that's a good one actually, and that's the reason he got it, and the reason he has it, and he plays it every night is because it's a fantastic cymbal, and Vince, knew that. He tested it. He checked these things out, and he showed up with the prototype, the original prototype for that cymbal, and Kirsten in LA lined us up with the Crash of Doom, the 18, the wavy Crash of Doom, the first one. So I don't think the 18s are available anymore. I'm not sure, but and it comes from Vince, so it's as cool as it's gonna get.
Yeah, whenever Charlie has talked about that, we did that modern drummer thing where we had a whole thing on his setup, and when I talked to Charlie about it, I think I talked about it over the phone, but also up in Buffalo around that time. He always makes it a point to mention, the cymbal that Vince gave me, who's Miles Davis' nephew. It's like it's
his birthday yesterday.
Yeah, and it's a magical cymbal
for
all those reasons.
He hits it sometimes as like it's a snare drum. Every once in a while, he'll just revert over to that instead of the snare.
Yeah.
And I know that Dave Natal out front, doing front of house, I know that he realizes that he's doing that. So at certain times, I know Dave's riding that fader, and it's fantastic. It really is. And it's a modest little setup, but look at those cymbals. It's intense.
Yeah. Yep.
But that's the good thing about the people we work for, is that they don't mess around. They kind of have what they like, and that's all they want. They don't want to get bombarded with equipment and 400 cymbals in the lockup and all that stuff. No, they get their set together. Like Ginger Baker, he's still got most of the original cymbals from back in the 60s.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember, John, but when I was doing the Cream shows in 2005, we were at Madison Square Garden, when our friend Jim McGaffey sent me an email, and he said, we'd like to send you some cymbals for Ginger to try. And I said, yeah, okay. So a box of cymbals turned up at rehearsals at the Sony place. And so I took them out of the box and put them on the corner of the riser where he puts his shoes. And they're just stacked up there. And he came in, he's like this. What's that? I said, Jim from Zildjian sent them along for you to try in case you like them. And he just looked at me, he went, nah, I've got my singles. That was it. Straight back in the box.
I remember. And you know what? I told Jim had the best intentions. God bless him.
He did.
Yep. And I said,
it's the same with all of them, with Gadd and everybody and Charlie. They know what they like, and they've got it, and they're not interested in anything else.
Right.
But that's a good thing about, you know.
And I think Jim made his way down to the show because he surprised me. Yeah. And you took care of him, and he surprised me when he got back with one of the symbols that Ginger said no thank you to, he had signed to me, which was very nice, and I have it.
Yeah, I took him into Ginger's dressing room and introduced him and stuff.
Yeah. I got to just quick tell you a funny Charlie story, and somebody's asked Mark Ewell, I think Yard has asked
I know Mark.
You know Mark, he asked to tell your favorite Steve Gadd story, which I'm going to have you do in 1 second. But when Chooch was, I keep talking about, the great Chooch McGee, when he was still around, he came to visit Zildjian. This was in the late 90s when the Stones were playing in Boston for a couple of days. And I couldn't get Charlie to come down on that particular time, but Chooch came down, and we had just started really kind of making the Constantinople symbols. And they were like the new hot thing. And so I talked to Charlie about them, and he was anxious to try one, not for the Stones, but, for his jazz gigs. And so Chooch came down, and remember John King? Yard?
Yeah. I know
John.
Yeah, I know John.
John was our product specialist, and, he was a former cymbal tester. So he and I brought Chooch down, and we went through a bunch of K-Cons, and John sort of steered him in a direction, and he ended up taking a couple, or at least one of the K Constantinoples that was kind of on the heavy side. Honestly, I thought so. And so I went to see Charlie that night at the Garden, and I bring John King with me, and I brought my son the night before, John Jr. So the first thing Charlie says is, "Where's John Jr.?" And I said, "Oh, he's home tonight. He has school tomorrow." So, he's, and I said, "But Charlie, this is John King, who works with me at Zildjian. He's the product specialist." And Charlie said, "Are you the cymbal tester?" And he said, "Well," and he, John has this way about him, if he were watching this, I think he'd laugh, but he has this very, "Well, Charlie, I'm one of the mad scientists that creates the symbols, and I'm the guy that," and Charlie says, "Right, yeah, you're the tester then. Well, you can have this back." It's too heavy. I don't want it.
Yeah. I've got a couple of really good Charlie stories that just make me laugh. That's why we get on. We all have the same kind of humour. And we were doing, because our good friend, the late Bill Harrison, he worked for the Faces, the Who, all that stuff,
Ringo, yeah.
Yeah, he got me to look after Charlie when he was busy with Elton and Ray Cooper. And so Charlie was playing with Boogie Woogie band, ABC and D of Boogie Woogie.
Yeah.
And so we're in Vienna, and we're doing these small clubs, and so the guy who was the mayor of the town, not Vienna, it's another little town, but the guy who was the mayor of the town, he was the promoter. So on the second night, he came to the gig, and he came in the dressing room, and anyone who knows me knows I don't eat asparagus and all that fancy stuff. I'd rather eat cheap rubbish. And Charlie knew this. So the mayor says, before you leave tomorrow, I'm going to take you up into the mountains and treat you to a traditional Austrian meal. Charlie looked at me and he went, "Yard's going to love that."
Their hamburgers up there.
Yeah.
And another time we're in Austria, because most of it was in Austria, and this on the first night, Charlie said to me, he said when he went on backstage after sound check, he said to me, "Can you have a look at my pedal?" Because he carries 2 Speed Kings with him. He said, "I think it's got a squeak." So I said, yeah, okay. And we never used to take anything with us, you know, no tech box, no nothing. It's just be a key in my pocket. And we just take his cymbals, the 2 pedals and his stool. And so I went to the techs in the venue and I said, have you got any WD-40? And he said, all I have is this. And he got a WD-40 felt pen. So that's all we had. So I went back and I tried rubbing it round all the various points. And at the end of the gig, Charlie got off the kit and he came to me before he went to the dressing room. He said, yeah, did you oil the pedal? I said, well, sort of. He said, oh, it must be my ankle then. Well, that's the great thing about him. There's no drama.
Yeah,
you know.
it must be
just goes with the flow. That's, you know, it's just the best people are the best people.
Yeah, Don, you got to have a bunch of funny Charlie stories, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but anything you could tell us that you
there's a lot. There's no doubt.
Some you can tell, some you can't. Yeah.
It's just been exactly.
Tell us the ones you can't.
The ones you can't really tell. We'll save that for later on. I guess one thing, there's a lot of things, little things, but little Steven came out to visit one time, and he's on stage. I think it was 2012, 13, or something like that. And he says, "Man, I always love your snare sound. It just sounds so good, Charlie. And what is it?" He points to me. He says, "It's his fault. It's his fault. It's not my. I've nothing to do with it. It's his fault." And just a lot of little things. I mean, little bits. It's the little things that happen throughout the shows. One time, my dad was going through some stuff, and he, I told him, I was kind of bummed out. And he had met my dad a couple of times, and they talked drummer stories, the two of them talking drums and stuff. And they're playing their rehearsal, or either in a rehearsal or a gig, and they're playing Far Away Eyes. And it's just kind of a simple part, and it's just hi-hat and side stick and kick drum. And he kind of waves me over, right? I think it was a gig. Actually. Waves me over. And I'm like, oh, what's the matter? What's the matter? How's your dad doing anyways? Is he all right? Is your dad okay?
Oh my God.
Kind of guy he is, man. He's like, he's the most rock star you'll ever meet.
Yeah. Yep.
And just, and I'm getting used, at the time, I'm just getting used to I've had a lot of British friends over the years, but getting used to every day for the next 3-4 months, the British wit humor,
Yeah.
And he knew that. And so he's kind of putting me in the hot seat. It's wonderful.
One of the funniest things he ever said to me, I don't know how many years ago, I was in London on a business trip. Kelly was with me, and I think it was like I'd been there for 3 or 4 days, Yard, for one of the artist days we used to have, Yeah. And then from there I'd go to Frankfurt to Music Mess. So I'd have the weekend sort of free. And Kelly wanted to go to Portobello Road, the big sort of.
That's where I grew up.
Is that right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The big outdoor shop area, So it's a Saturday. And Charlie, I'd been in touch with Charlie.
No drums there anymore.
What's that?
That's why there's no vintage drums there anymore.
Because Yard, right.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, he had said to me the day before, he said, well, ring me on Saturday and maybe we can meet for lunch or something. And so I called him while I was, Kelly was looking at some stuff, and I'm just sort of walking around. I ring him up, and he was really loud, and he said, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm on Portobello Road." And he said, "Oh God, I hope you get out alive." Again, I just thought that was the funniest thing. God, I hope you get out alive.
Yeah. Well, it's a great area for musicians. Everyone used to live around there.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's the hub, and Island Studios was there, where all the great recordings were, with Free and all that. And I remember going there years back, and I remember walking into the studio where a lot of the Free stuff was recorded, and just stood in the middle of the room, not believing that I was finally in there after all these years. It's just, that's what moves me doing this. It's like, yeah, and standing on the same stage as certain people with massive gigs, you think, yeah, finally. And that's what keeps it. It's never a question of money. And the great musicians never think of money. They just think, I want to play. And it should be the same for techs. When people start talking to me about money and stuff, it's just like, forget all that. These are going to be times that you'll never, ever recreate,
right.
No matter how much money you get. And that's what keeps people going. That's why they want to do it.
Well, you two guys, and last week, Harry McCarthy and Jeff Jonas. I mean, and I don't mean to leave anybody out. No, but I mean, there's a lot of great drum techs and techs that are in this category. But you four, Harry and Jeff last week, and you two. I mean, when I think of like, not only like the dream gigs, but like you guys work for bands that are, perennial. Like, I mean, when everything starts happening again, it's just, and the best, and my point to all this is the best thing about it is both of you guys like realize how, I mean, you're hard workers, you're the best at what you do, you work your butts off. And you totally appreciate how great the gig is that you have, you know what I mean? It's like, you
have to.
Yeah.
And it's a hard gig, man. I that's, knowing what you guys do and knowing you guys and all the texts that I know, like from load in at whatever, if it's 8 or 9 in the morning until if it's a one night or, and you're loading out at midnight. I mean,
could be the day before. Yeah.
Yeah. It's yeah.
There's a lot to it. There's no doubt. I mean, and you'd think, with the bigger bands that it's a little bit less of a workload, but in fact, and sometimes it is in that sense, because they do part the ways. When you go to a festival stage, Yard, you'll know this. You go to a festival, go to Glastonbury or something, or wherever, we take over the stage.
Yeah.
The stage is ours. So we can, it's our. We build a little mini city every time we come in. So it's comfortable.
It has to be comfortable.
Yeah.
It's got to be comfortable. But really, the easiest part of the day, I think for probably both of us, or some of the professionals, is building the kit. We've done all this prep work on the drum set. We feel anyways that we know it's really solid. And so the building the kit is really not the big deal. It's the mannerisms throughout the day, and it's guarding that set like with your life.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Don't let anyone near it.
Don't let anyone near it. And that's because, you have to be a good steward. You have to look after these guys' stuff because they're off doing all sorts of other things. But like with the Stones, it's like a festival. Every show is like a festival. We could be inside and doing a 3,000 person small gig, so to say, still like a festival atmosphere, or 150,000 or 500,000 in Cuba, or whatever they call the numbers. It's maddening.
Yeah.
So you just try to be cool, because you don't do pimp. We don't do pimp. You can't.
No, but the thing that sticks with me is if you do ever get slightly fed up, you just got to look into the crowd, and you might be at Wembley or wherever, and there's not one person in that crowd that wouldn't want to swap places with you.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And that's where you think life's not too bad,
Yeah.
Yep.
And I've made some fantastic friends all around the world, that you think of and smile. I get to, even my son, when he's on the road, he comes home and he says, oh, so-and-so said to say hello, and, from whatever country. And if you treat people nice, they fall over themselves to help you, and a lot of the crews, they're not idiots. I know a lot of the crews, and I know who they used to work for before they wanted to stay more local. And don't presume that everyone at a gig is an idiot, because they're not. They're all good at what they do, and that's why they're there. And one thing I do hate about certain things in the music biz is there's a certain core of people that are quite arrogant. And
you mean me, Yard? Are you talking about me again?
Well,
I hope not.
No, but no. It's there's a certain core of people that kind of think because they work for a certain band that they're the top of the tree, and it's rubbish. You know, I've met young kids. Well, take for instance Neil, who works for Matt with Pearl Jam.
Mm.
You know, we were at Hyde Park, and he knew my son. You know, I never met Neil before, but I love Matt. You know, we've done gigs together before, and when he was working, because we had risers next to each other, and I was setting up, funny enough, Mike Baldwin's kit, and that's the gig you came to, Don.
That's
with your wife, and
you bailed me out on Hyde Park. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
I was able to meet stage though that day, so that was nice.
They are. Helped you out there. But funny enough, on a different subject, a friend of mine was Jimmy's guitar tech, and we did a tour with the Who and Jimmy Page and the Black Crowes, and you know, Jimmy's guitar tech job was coming up, and I offered it to my son, and he said I can't do it. And I said, what do you mean you can't do it? Because Jimmy was his hero, you know, he's a guitar player, whole thing. He said, I just can't do it, because he admired him so much, he didn't want to do it. And that's how you got to be. That's how you got to feel. Mm. You know, it's not just a gig. It's like, it's Jimmy Page, you know, and that's what keeps you going. You know, same with all the drummers, you know, it's like, whoever it is, Vinny, Steve, it's like, yeah, you know, you're sitting a few feet from them watching all this brilliance. And once you lose that, it's time to go. Yeah. With any job. When it becomes a job, it's time to go. But I've had a great time, so, you know. It was good.
It's very humbling, that's for sure. Working with some of the best and the people you admired all your life as a musician or just a music fan. It comes down to you have your job to do, and that's the most important thing. Like you'll say, job well job.
Or we say job jobbed. It's a construction saying, right? Job jobbed. Let's go. But that's what it's about, you know. It's like having that privilege of knowing them and becoming friends, and people have said some really lovely things to me over the years, you know, especially Gadd. You know, he's got a heart of gold, as you know. You know, he's just, you know, like when my mum died, they're the things I think of. When my mum passed away, just before Entwistle, and I sent a note to the management and said, I'm not coming on the US tour. And Steve called me, you know, left a lovely message. And that's what it's about. It's about that personal touch, you know. Yeah. There's a lot of great drummers around, but it's the personal thing as well, you know. Yeah. You've got a brilliant drummer who's not so nice. You just don't go back again, you know. Yeah. But you know, this is my 24th year with Steve, and it's been great. You know, he's an absolute gentleman.
He sure is. He's the best. As is Charlie. And Yard, you have a question from Michael Welch. Uh-oh. Any Phil Seaman stories?
Yeah. No, I never met Phil Seaman. That was before my time.
Okay.
That was Ginger and Phil in the early days. I think they shared a flat together and all that kind of stuff. So I think I came into the music business at the right time for me. You know, after running my construction business and dealing with people. That was because when I do production, it's all about dealing with people and trying to get people to do their best for you and treating them right. So when you call them again, they want to show up. Yeah. So, but I think that experience and all the things you collect along the way from your childhood, what makes you what you are when you finally get to where you want to be, if you understand that.
And speaking of Harry McCarthy, by the way, he's watching and he says hello to you guys.
Hi, Harry.
Hi, Harry. We're all waving to you, buddy.
We're all part of the same club.
I know. It's tough to top, you know, I mean, Harry and Jeff last week was pretty great. And I think we're
everybody's right there.
Yeah.
We're giving him a run for the money today.
Well, I saw Jeff after many years in Holland. He was with Ringo, and I was with Jeff Beck and Vinny.
Yeah.
And we were on before Richie, and on they went. And I just got a wave, and that was it. As we were going off and they're going on. But it's good to see him. You know, he's kind of, when I worked for Zak, you know, Zak, and it's, you know, Zak always regarded Jeff, and I hope he's listening, as the best drum tech in the world.
Yeah.
And I didn't take it as a slight. I thought, yeah, fair enough. I don't, you know, it doesn't bother me. And he just said, when he worked with his dad and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
He just knows what he's doing.
Yep. But so do you. And by the way, speaking of Zak, my friend Penny Lane is asking if you have any Zak Who stories that you can tell.
No, not really. No, I can't think. Nothing springs to mind.
Yeah.
Just a great family, you know, and you know, the whole family, you know, brothers, sisters, everybody, you know. It's just, they're just so down to earth, the same as, you know, Gadd and Charlie and all them. You know, they're just, you wouldn't think, if you'd never seen a picture of Charlie or anybody and just met him in a pub, you just go, yeah, he's all right. You wouldn't, you know.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and that's the great thing about it. But no, I haven't got any Zak stories really. I mean, we did the sound checks for the Who, so we didn't really see each other until the band turned up for the gig. And it's the same with Eric. You know, we do the sound checks and get the levels up and kind of stuff. And apparently, I hit of a similar weight to Gadd, and that's a good thing about working with good technical crew. Because they said to me, the good thing about you doing this is you hit of a similar weight to Steve. I can see it on my desk. And I said, are you saying I play like Steve? He said, no. And I thought,
You would have done it. You said, well, I'll do it for a few quid cheaper than Steve, and you could have me do it.
I have offered to the band before, you know. I said, right, let's talk money. I had a great time. I was in Japan and Steve didn't come to the sound check, and nor did Eric. And we were doing multiple nights at the Budokan and stuff. And so Andy Fairweather-Lowe said, jump on the kit, we want to have a run through Sunshine. And I played the kit, and I've been watching Ginger since, you know, 68, first time I saw him on TV. And it was just like, you know,
Yeah.
And I played in covers bands where you try to emulate the person playing. And at the end of the sound check, the band, I had Joe Sample in the band as well. They all high-fived me. So I just said, come on in, let's talk money. And then Steve came in, and I was walking past the dressing rooms, and he shouted out, Ginger! So they must have told him back at the hotel.
I think I saw that gig. Did I see that gig Yard at the Budokan when we came out?
Yeah, it wasn't that one though.
That was it? Okay.
Yeah, because Eric used to do, we'd go to Japan every 2 years, and then he'd do multiple shows at the Budokan and Osaka.
Okay.
And well, we probably do about 7 or 8 nights at the Budokan.
Oh yeah.
But I love Japan.
Yeah.
You know, I always say it, but if you want to get anything done and done well, go to Japan. You'll see how things should be.
Music fan too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Hey,
just
so,
great.
I know, I'm just looking to see if there's, I know, I got to think people have questions about Charlie's vintage Gretsch kit. And I don't want too much time to go by before we talk about that. I'm just looking to see, but I was going to ask you, Don, how, I mean, for people that don't know this, Charlie plays a 57 Gretsch round badge kit, 57-ish. Yeah. And how much do you have to sort of, maybe not on a daily basis, weekly, or however often do you have to sort of maintain the kit that's that old on the road?
Well, I mean, there's a lot to it. It's preserving, isn't it? There's restoration and there's preservation, right? And with that particular kit, I've gone through it quite a bit. I've actually recut the bearing edge on the bass drum. I should say on all the two toms and the bass drum, the resonant side was all chewed up. You know, the plies are coming apart, and so I had to fill those, cut the bearing edges, put a wax finish on to keep the finish from peeling off.
Yeah.
Fortunately, just keep going. So there's things like that, and so you get to the nuts and bolts of it, packing the lugs with felt, making sure that all the springs are working. I mean, that's what I can do on the time off.
Yeah.
Really get on the interior of that kit and make sure that it's solid. And then there's the little things, with the set. Make sure the rims are true. Make sure everything is not warped, so that if you're having the floor tom the rim was warped, so I had to change all the rims out. Things
Are
like
all the other hoops original on that kit? All the other hoops on the kit, or
all the hoops original to the kit. Yeah. Except for one of the floor tom, which was the top, which was
the top?
really out of whack.
Yeah.
I still have it. I'm still working on flattening it out, actually.
And Charlie probably didn't realize that was preventing it from really tuning truly, right?
Exactly. Yeah, the tuning range was very limited at that point.
Yeah.
So it's things like that. It's just maintenance, but it's an iconic kit, and I don't want to change anything. The whole thing is I don't want to change a single thing for him to notice at all. I want him to be able to just have fun and play. For him and Keith to vibe. That's everything. That is everything. But with the kit, there's other things, the hardware, the techware stands I had. It was a rehearsal, and one of the tilter tops broke, and his China crash came flying into his lap. There's nothing I could do about it. So I spent a bit of time with a JB Weld and trying to get it solid and correcting all that. And I said, this is just, we can't do this. We have to make sure we get something new. So I called Gretsch and I said, can you guys remake these, recast and everything? They couldn't do it. Said, give us a year. I don't have a year. So I called Mike over at Trick, the guys from Trick, and I said, can you recreate the tilter top for the Gretsch techware? And they did it in speedy time, and made out of airplane aluminum. So now I know each and every one of those tilter tops in the cymbal stands. They're brand new. They're not going anywhere, and they look identical.
Yeah. Wow.
But little things, there's little things. His seat.
Yeah.
You gotta keep putting that electrical tape on the E-tape on the seat. He doesn't want to change the. I've got 3 brand new ones ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a mojo thing, and I don't blame him. I find that's you play what you love and what you've known.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for everybody watching, what Don's talking about is Charlie's Ludwig Atlas drum throne that's 70s, 60s, or 70s?
Early 70s, yeah. Which
Early
we also
70s.
have 3 more of those in backup too, yeah.
Yeah. And so let me ask you, when you recut the edges on the toms, did you cut them to what the Gretsch spec was, like the original? Yeah.
Exactly. The exact 30 degree, yeah. Not going to change that at all. I just wanted to make sure that they were true. And I'm a woodworker. I've been a custom furniture builder for 30 plus years. And so I had confidence in doing that. I restored vintage drums. I've been doing that for years. So, I mean, there's no doubt you got Charlie Watts's drums in your hand. And my good friend Joe Montaneri actually helped me out with that.
That's played in our favor, having a woodworking background.
Yeah,
both of you guys, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, so I'm a carpenter and joiner, and my shop's all set up. We cut bass drums down and all that stuff, and it's no problem, But you got to be careful when it belongs to someone like Charlie.
Yeah.
It's the old favourite: measure twice, cut once.
And that's the thing with his, with his cymbal too, with an 18-inch B8 cymbal, which we haven't determined if it's a U-tip or not. It's called the Golden Bell. Indeterminate,
yeah.
Yeah, and so we're still searching out like what it actually, who actually made it. Actually talked to the guy from Paris, from the battery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
sold it, you know?
Yeah.
He said it couldn't.
And because we think it could be a Tosco, right?
There's a good chance.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. But you know that interior, the round hole, there is a small little hairline crack. It hasn't moved. I've been watching it every day. I mean, that's the thing. You have a magnifying glass, and you're looking at these things and looking for hairline cracks in the bass drum pedals.
Yeah.
With every rebuilding all those pedals, and you're looking for the stuff to make sure it doesn't break.
Yeah. If it's on the edge, if it's on the edge of a cymbal, when I put the cymbal on, I spin it and then see if I can feel anything. You know, because after time you can't see it, but you can feel it.
Yeah.
This is actually on the interior of the keyhole, of the hole.
That's it. Yeah.
The mounting hole. Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you guys at the end of a gig, do you as you're striking the kit, do you look at the cymbals like after a show too to
No.
look for
I don't. We have to pack away as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And I have to break Steve's kit down and quickly get it into cases onto the truck, depending on the truck pack and everything. But you want to get off anyway because you've got all the lights coming down and it just gets awkward. So you just want to just be professional, you know. I mean, it doesn't take that long to do a kit, but you just get in a routine and that's the way it's got to go, you know.
Yeah.
But no one will wait for you.
I do look at that cymbal every night.
I'll bet you do, and I'll bet you look at it as made in China too. The one over stomp.
Not as much because
not as much.
You know, we can get those. We have 3 vintage white mark U-fits, but then there's the red ones. I mean, there's 6 or so ready to go. I've tested those, ear tested them, you know, each and every time. But the only one I look at is his hi-hat pedal and his cymbal. Yeah,
his flat ride.
Yeah.
Michael Welch Don is asking you, and I know the answer, but I'll let you answer it. What Charlie's hi-hat clutch is?
It's a Rogers, and it's the vintage 60s Rogers. There's a handful of different ones for sure, but try to keep the same one that he's had on there every single time.
Yeah.
In fact, I do every single time. It's the same one. Yeah. That's actually something Bill Harrison, a couple of things Bill Harrison told me before he got rest his soul, before he passed. He gave me the key. And he says, this is the key. And that hi-hat clutch right there, he's going to touch that every single day. He's going to touch it all day long. Don't ever change that. Do not change anything. And if you have to change anything, ask him, you know.
Yeah.
That doesn't change.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same with Gadd, you know. Even if I change his drum key, he'll go, I mean, where's the... And you look around the kit for the key he likes, you know. And they're all Yamaha keys, but there's familiarity. And our job, really, is to make them comfortable. So when they get on the kit, everything's where it should be, sounding like it should. And then they do the gig. But you don't want anything to freak them out. You know, you get things, you know, like he snaps the bass drum pedal beater, you know, and it just snaps right by the top of the pedal. And it's happened to me 2 or 3 times. So I always have a spare beater tucked in right near the bass drum. So if anything happens, you can quickly switch it out. Because he's so professional, he just switches his right foot to his left pedal and carries on playing. And I quickly whip it out. The broken bit falls out and I put the other one in. And it's just, you got to work with professionals, you know, that don't panic. The same as when he's playing and he'll say to me, he'll rub the top of the snare and he'll say, let's get the other snare up, this might go. And then I'll get it ready. And they'll go, when the song finishes, I'll get up to change it. He'll go, no, I think we're all right for another song. And he won't change it until it splits. And then when it does, you can do it with 2 hands, you know, you pull one out, drop the other one in. And that's why you shouldn't do the basket up. Leave it loose. You know, the snare's not going to fly off into the air.
Yeah.
And and then he just plays the snare on the second tom, so he's out your way.
Yeah.
And you have to make all these arrangements so you know exactly what to do when there's a bit of a disaster.
Yeah.
And it's so easy, you know, and he does it, and then as soon as I'm out the way, he just brings his hand back down and carries on as before.
Never missing a beat.
No.
Hey, Don, our friend Mike Edison, author of Sympathy for the Drummer, Why Charlie Watts Matters, a great book, is asking you what bass drum head Charlie uses live and in the studio.
Right now it's a PS3, Power Stroke 3.
Power Stroke.
That's changed a couple times. I've also, that's the standard right now because it's a really solid head and it sounds fantastic. But there's also the Aquarian Deep Vintage 2, which we've messed around with a little bit, which is a fantastic sound. It's a great sound. So, but what he's had on his kit now has been the Power Stroke 3, and it's solid. And the Ambassador on the front with a hole right in the center, the 5.5-inch hole in the center, and it sounds fantastic. And Mike, great job on the book, man. Sympathy for the Drummer, no doubt. You did a good job. Yard, if you haven't heard that yet, or if you haven't read it, you should definitely read it.
I haven't read it.
Good one.
I was looking for my copy so I could give him a plug, and I don't know what I did with it. Might be downstairs, but I was going to hold it up.
Here, I got something for you. Yeah.
But I'll second Don's recommendation on Sympathy for the Drummer, Why Charlie Watts Matters. A great read. Yeah, you should definitely read it. Maybe Mike will send you a copy.
Oh yeah.
Maybe he'll send you one.
I'll track it.
Look at that.
Oh yeah.
I don't have one of those.
Oh man, you got to get one of these T-shirts and everything.
I got to get a T-shirt. I got to get it. Mike Edison, you're holding out on me, man.
Hold on.
Well, we just got a little thanks from Mike. You're welcome, Mike. So, you know, I was going to have you guys, we're doing well on time. It's just about an hour. You guys can go a few more minutes. I was just going to have you guys talk about what you do, sort of in the way of your custom shops. And I know both of you guys are, you know, Yard, you've got your vintage shop and you do custom work, as you said. And Don, I know you do all sorts of custom work. So,
well, you know, we do the usual stuff. We do rewraps, you know, cut downs, bearing edges, add hardware. You know, for people who thought Virgin bass drums were cool.
I'm one of those people.
and then can't quite position their tom properly. and the people I work with teach me a lot. You know, they taught me everything really. Because when you're doing your own drum kit, you tune it to how you like it, and it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. But once you start working for people, you kind of have to pay attention, and that's why I like working for the bigger bands, because we go into rehearsals for like, sometimes it's like a month or 2 weeks or whatever, but it gives you time to get into it all, to get the sound in your head and know what's what. You get to know the set list. And you know exactly when you can go in and do something without getting in the way. And that's the great thing about it. So you learn the songs, you know exactly when he's going to spin round with a fill or play that cymbal, you know, and you're watching everything. If the wing nuts are unwinding and the hi-hat clutch is spinning around, all that stuff.
Yeah.
You're watching the pedals, you know, to see if the linkage goes. and that's what you're paid for. You know, you watch once they're on stage. And Zak taught me that really. You know, he's on it. You know, he loves a good sounding kit. Everything's got to be in the same spot every day, and that discipline is what I passed on to all the other drummers I've worked with. You know, it's like, yeah, it's crucial that everything's snare angle, you name it, it's all got to be done. You know, and that when I look back, I think, yeah, that was Zak. You know, he's very precise about what he does. But in the shop, you know, as well as that, I do studio sessions, and kit rental and all that kind of stuff. We just work to have in my shop, and I look after all their artists in Europe. So we do that as well. But I don't take on too much because I don't ever want it to be run like a business.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get to that just making money. I like to have when I do about 4 or 5 months a year touring, and now I just want to go home, and that's spread over a year. It's not all in one hit.
Yeah.
And I kind of like getting home, and the shop is where I can unwind and do stuff and keep in touch. And the shop was opened really for me to do something when I weren't on the road.
That's it.
Instead of construction, I just thought, I prefer doing this, and it's been great for keeping in touch with people and the whole thing. But I got away from wanting to run it like a business, and then the money takes over, and then I don't know, it kind of just goes downhill because it's never been about the money for me. I just wanted to earn enough to pay my way and have a nice life.
Mm-hmm.
So we when it comes to drums, we fix everything, wrap everything, and that's it really. It's just to keep us happy and hopefully the customer.
Yeah. But there's a price, there's a cost to doing that, and you charge a fair price.
Yeah.
You can't be everybody. You can't do it for free for everybody, but
no.
Yeah, but you've got to be able to. Yeah.
That's the thing, if everyone writes to me, and they've contacted about half a dozen other people to see who's got the lowest price. And I remember talking to my dad years ago, and my parents had restaurants, and we built a shop.
I remember that.
And I said to him, how do you put your prices together? And he told me a very valuable thing. 2 things. One is no one's indispensable. And the other thing was, he said, I could halve my prices, but why work twice as hard for the same amount of money? Okay. And that stuck with me since I was 16.
Yeah.
And he's right. It's kind of, this is the same with construction. People used to say to me, well, so-and-so is cheaper than you. And I said, well, you're free to get them. But the way we work is this way, and that's what it costs. You got the option of shopping round, but when you come to me, that's what I want when I finish. And we all work in different ways. As I've seen some kits absolutely butchered by people adding stuff to them, and they obviously haven't got the correct tools and stuff. And so now I'm very reluctant to buy any kits on the internet, because you see pictures, but when you actually take them apart, it's kind of quite brutal inside, just through people messing and changing hardware. And I've seen kits that are virtually worthless after someone has kind of tried to do it up.
That's too bad. That's too bad. Yeah. Don, do you have any stories about any of the custom work you've done, or?
I've been getting more and more into that now that we're off the road and got a lot of time on our hands. So there's a lot of projects that I'm starting to finish up, a lot of music projects and things like that, but playing music, but restoration projects. I've been doing a lot of stuff. I restored all of Charlie's Stones kits that he still has.
Yeah.
And for the exhibition, the Stones exhibition. So that kind of keeps me busy, which is good. Tour the world, like the show that never happened. Set up the studio, or set up the backstage area, or the guitar gallery. But people come to see that. The Stones never show up.
Yeah.
Recently, I did a restoration for the Rudy Van Gelder studio, which was really, really special. There's a kit that had been in the Rudy Van Gelder studio since 1959. So Jimmy Cobb would have played on that.
Yeah.
Elvin Jones would have played on those drums, and
wow.
different things. I mean, yesterday I delivered a kit which was an Acrolite that was just in absolutely terrible shape and broken in half. I had to get it, refused, so to say. But it was this guy's kit, that, I mean, it was 3 times the cost. I had to charge him 3 times the cost to get it back running, because than what it would have cost him to buy one.
Yeah.
But it was his childhood kit, so he just loved the idea of it. So I got it the best I could and got it dialed in. Restoring the drummer for Spiritualized, Kevin Bales, restored his snare drum after it burnt up at Hammersmith Ballroom, you know, those kind of things. You know, little bits. And then my next door neighbor has a cool kit that he wants to restore. So I'm getting into that a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, I've been doing that. I've been buying drums for the past 25 years, vintage drums, and now I'm sitting here with a 1,500 square foot space full of vintage drums I have to restore and hopefully sell.
Yeah. But you just reminded me, Don.
Another job
talking about restorations. I got a phone call a few years back, not that long ago, from a friend of mine who's just passed away, Roy Williams, who he does front of house and stuff, and he's from the Black Country in the UK, which is the Midlands area, and he's grown up with Robert Plant and stuff, and he called me up, and he said, Yard, he said, I've got a kit here that needs restoring because we want to auction it. And I said, okay. So he said, it belongs to Robert. It's in his studio at home. And it was all hush-hush at the time. And so I went over to his place, which is about 4.5 hours drive from my place. And then I thought, do I take it home or, you know, what I do? It was one of John Bonham's original Ludwigs.
Wow.
Say that. Wow.
Exactly. And so then Robert said to me, do you want to take it with you? And I thought, right, he's given me permission. I was thinking of all sorts of it. I thought, what if I crash on the way home?
What if I'm robbed?
Yeah, what if I park and get a sandwich? And I come out, it's gone. And so anyway, I got back to the shop, put it in the shop, and it's a bit like construction work when you do work on, because I used to work on old properties, and you've got to work on them, but make it look like you haven't done any work.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Perfect restoration.
Preservation. Yeah.
Preservation for you. And so I got it home, and I told my boys, all my kids are huge Zeppelin fans, and my son said, "Don't let it go till I touch it." And that's the excitement I like, you know. And so I restored it without changing anything, you know. Left the original heads on, Ludwig heads and stuff.
Ludwig coated heads, or were they
coated?
Coated heads, yeah.
Yeah. Left all that on, you know, covered in dirt. You know, other drummers, if I'd have shown a picture of it, other drummers would have said, "Oh, you've got to change the heads," like they do with Gadd. You know, I change Gadd's heads one at a time. You know, he'll say to me, he'll get off the kit and he'll say, "Let's change to 12 tomorrow," and that's it. You know, and that's what you got to do. You just listen to them. They tell you what they want. You don't take it upon yourself unless something's really bad, and then you can do it. But so I fixed the kit up, took it back over to Roberts, and he gave me 2 box sets, and he signed Led Zeppelin 2, which was the one that got me.
Yeah.
And
man.
And it was the proudest moment that.
Those for the bottom kits. Yeah, you know, I think Zoe has the green one, the green Vista Light, but otherwise, I mean, there's no bottom kits to be known out there. So you worked on something.
Well, yeah. Was it Silver Sparkle? Was it
It was a Black Diamond Pearl.
Black Diamond Pearl. Okay.
Yeah.
Like this.
Yeah. Similar. Ludwig. Yeah. But it was so I took it back, and he wasn't there when I got back. He was recording, and then he called me up, and he said, you know, I want to buy some, you know, can you because I didn't charge him. I said, no. I said, I can't charge you. You know? And so he called me up and he said, well, why don't you supply me a set of pasty cymbals? Sorry to mention.
Great cymbals.
the same setup that John used, you know.
Yeah.
So I did that, and the firm that supply me, they're down the road from, you know, I got it from Cork, but there's a firm that supply me that are down the road from, you know, 10 minutes from Robert's house. And so he popped in there, and it was just a great time. I just thought I could never imagine this happening, ever.
Man.
You know?
Well, that's why you guys are who you are. You know what I mean? You get those calls to do that.
Well, it's just sheer chance, you know, and we, you know, Robert had supported the Who in around 2001, 2, something like that, in America, and then a couple of years later, Jimmy Page and the Black Crowes supported the Who, so I ended up.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
it was great.
I just got me on this subject, on that subject, Yard, talking about preservation, to quote our friend Don McAulay. And Don, you were talking about exhibitionism, and just recently there were some pictures up on a drum forum that I belong to called drumforum.org. I think there's probably some guys watching right now that are on it.
Yeah, I'm on there as well. Twig drum. Yeah.
Yeah. And they were commenting on Charlie's Sky Blue Pearl, his Ludwig kit.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you restored all that stuff, and maybe you could talk about that, because I saw those, you know, from 3 feet away, and they look unbelievable.
That was, I took my time.
That was a long, yeah.
I took my time. I went to London when they were all getting ready for that, just starting to build the exhibition and really figure out how they wanted to design it. And they were talking about putting it, you know, behind glass and over in the corner. And I said, no, this has to be front and center. Everybody should walk around this kit and see every aspect of this kit that they want to. So the pressure was on. So I unearthed it. The stuff had been just in its original cases, and it was very musty and a lot of rust, and of course the original heads, which I put right back on. But you know, not to make it look like it wasn't played, but I also, in the back of my mind, thought there's a chance that we might get up and play this set. You never know. I just want to be prepared. And I like they're actually going to, you know, step inside like the Black Nitron kit, step inside and play that kit. Who knows?
Yeah.
So I got it prepared to be exhibited as well as playable. And there was just years and years of just a lot of nasty, gross stuff on there. Shined it right up, got it cleaned up. Using felt only, never steel wool, of course. You know, being very meticulous in what you do. You know, doing it right and take your time to do it right. And then getting it right and showing the right kind of lights on the drums, where the lights kind of shine at the exhibition. And unfortunately, the snare was missing. So I had a Superphonic.
Okay.
That kit is a 65.
Yep.
And,
perfect.
You know, and checking. So I had one of those. So I loaned that out to the exhibition, and I think actually Charlie bought that anyways. But
yeah.
The one thing about it was finding the right seat. Like, what seat did he use back then? But everything was black and white. So, you know, getting the provenance together for all that stuff. The exhibition company was pushing me to get all the provenance together for that. So I did a lot of research, and of course they want that yesterday. And I says, I'm not gonna sign off on anything until Charlie Watt says, this is what it is.
Yeah. Yep.
Sure enough, I did. He took his time, as he does, and verified everything. And come to find out, it's one of those red seats. It's a red top seat. Ludwig.
Okay.
Yep. You know, but you really wouldn't have known that because there's all these black and white photos from the 60s. So we got it right down to the exact time, you know, period correct items. All the stuff. It has to be, right?
Yeah, it's
there's no way to mess around. You can't mess around with that. It has to be perfect.
It's amazing. I mean, having seen it a couple of times, and the Ludwig kit and the Gretsch Black Nitrons, which are so close to me and my heart, are just
Stop sign bad one. Yeah.
They looked like they were from 1972. They looked unbelievable, and
Those were in bad shape.
yeah, I know
Yeah.
that you told me that. And Charlie once told me years ago that he still had everything, like every cymbal he'd ever cracked, pretty much every drum, you know, years ago before you had taken this project on. He said they're sitting in the warehouse. And so for you that must have been unbelievable to unearth all that, and the sort of history that just came pouring out, you know?
Oh, I'm very blessed to be able to help him in that sense. I come from a family of antique restoration guys. My grandfather he worked in furniture. My dad works in furniture, but restoring pieces. And you just have to know that, like you said before, we don't do panic. You have to be meticulous in what you do. And so that's the biggest part of it. I mean, all of it in his entire collection. I mean, there's an amazing amount of drums that should never be changed. It's exactly as they were. Maybe dusted, but nothing else.
No.
Right. Right.
It's strange you talking about the provenance, because I do stuff at Abbey Road and different studios, but mainly Abbey Road, where we're doing drum samples, and they're very, when they ask you for certain cymbals, they're very, very particular. It's all the correct stuff, you know, and they'll keep checking, you know, year is drum, what year is his snare drum, and the whole thing, and it has to be spot on. You can't win it.
Yeah, you're not going to say this is a 70s.
Frozen there, John.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I don't know if it was mine or you got a little garbly. It might have been my connection. I don't know, but
could be me. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, before I don't want to miss this question. Our friend Jim Turner was asking Don, does Charlie ever crack his 18 UFIP on tour? And we know the answer to that question. And why does he not get a nice, comfortable DW throne? And we know the answer to that too, but I'm going to let you answer, Don.
Yeah, let me ask him about that. I'll get back to you. You still have plenty of.
That's typical Jim question, that is.
Yeah.
It's like when I'm setting up at venues, the crew come up to me and they say, "Why is he using that pedal?" I said, "Because he likes it."
Yeah.
You know, it's like, why else?
Doesn't he get one of those nice BW 9000?
Yeah. They do it to me all the time. You know, it's like, well, he chooses what he likes.
The Charlie Mojo, man. Yeah. So
it's Mojo. It's Mojo. You know, it's familiarity. He probably knows when certain cracks on the leather on his seat broke. You know, it's a time period. And plus, you know, what are you going to tell the kids in 30 years from now, 40 years? I mean, you know, hey, he did it just fine with that seat right there. And he's playing just fine.
That's right.
I mean,
exactly.
I do worry about his back, you know, I worry about his back and his sitting, but hey, that's what he's accustomed to. But with a cymbal, he cracks them, and he cracks them here and there. I think he's trying to crack them. I'm pretty sure he's really trying his best to, you know, smash the hell out of that thing. And if he's a Wembley whammer for all.
Yeah.
But you know, I watch that a lot, and even if it's going a little bit, he starts to tell him his ear is good. He's got a really good ear for this stuff.
Yeah.
He knows, hey, this one's going. You know, let's not get rid of it right now.
Yeah.
But let's just watch it.
Yeah.
Well, Gadd and Zak the same. You know, Zak can tell me there's a crack, and eventually you'll find it. You think, how does he know that?
Oh, you can hear. Well, yeah, you know, you can hear it. You can hear it.
Yeah. I mean, but he knows instantly.
I've worked for some guys, and I know Yard, you've worked for some guys that, you know, you change the heads out every single show, and you shine and polish the cymbals, and you're changing snares out, and you're like, man, you're just getting used to these. You're just getting used to these heads, and you're just getting used to the cymbal.
Yeah.
And you're keeping all the great tone. Personally, I think keeping all the tone out.
Yeah, but that's what, you know, Gadd says. You know, we leave his heads on there for ages, and I think, well, I'm working for him. People say to me, tell him. I was like, I work for him. It's not the other way around. And he knows what he's doing. And it always makes me laugh when they say, tell him.
You can take a hair dryer and tighten up the plastic,
It's not even when they dip. It's like the heads are fine, because he uses the black sticks.
Yeah, I have a pair.
They mark the heads, and everyone seems to go by how they look rather than how they sound. Exactly. And the good thing about Charlie and Steve is they go by how they sound. And it's like when I worked with Steve Jordan. We had a dozen snares behind him, and I'd mark them down during the set as to the switch outs and stuff. And then at first I thought 12 snares, but when he actually does it, you realise why he does it. He gets that tone just right for the track, and in the end, you think, yeah, that's great.
Well, he's a music producer though too, so his ear is built
right on.
Yeah. Well, he came over. He called me, and he came over with Robert Cray to do a TV show, and he called me up. He said, "Yard, I'm coming over." Of course, he calls me like a couple of days for his due, and so he said, "We're gonna do Jules Holland." So I said, "Okay," and so I got an old Rogers kit, which he loves Rogers, and so I got it together, an old silver Big R, which he loves, and prepped it all. Took it down there, set it up, and while I set it up, he turned up, and he just stood there, grinning away to himself. And I said, "What's up?" He said, "That is the exact same kit I've got in my studio."
Oh, wow.
Same colour, everything. He couldn't believe it. And he said, "Well, let's make this easy." He said, "Take all the bottom heads off, and we just do it single-headed, make the whole show dead easy."
Wow.
And he was cool as you like. And I loved working for him. Artie Smith is his guy and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And it was fabulous, and we did a US tour together and the whole thing. And he's got this infectious enthusiasm, which I love.
Yeah.
He kind of wants to play. He gets on the kit and he does some great fills, and you just think, but he's never lost that buzz of playing.
Yeah.
He's a great player.
Hey, I'm going to throw one more question to Don from David Robert Melicote, and asking about the black mark on the cymbal. Did it come from a firework? I think he's talking about Charlie's old Peisty.
Yeah. That. The bomb.
The bomb.
I think David worked at the Musicians Hall of Fame in Nashville when we did the exhibition there.
Oh, okay.
He was one of the guys that was running the show over there. I think. Pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. It's a Peisty 602.
602. Yeah.
16 or 18. I think it's a 16. It's got the crack, and you can see where it shoots, or maybe it goes back to Stu. It could have went way back to Stu. They drilled out, along the crack and kept on doing it. The story that I was told by Charlie was somebody threw an M80 firecracker, whatever, at the stage, and it blew up on the cymbal.
On the cymbal, yeah.
And he calls it the bomb.
The bomb.
And that's actually displayed with the exhibition. That's displayed. I don't know if it was on his Sky Blue Pearl kit, but because it was so cool, I put that on there.
Yeah.
I think symbols that were on there.
I think he got that kit right as he was transitioning. Sorry, that cymbal. Yeah. I think he got it in '68 as he was transitioning from the Ludwig to his first Gretsch kit.
To the round badge Black Nitron. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so, because I hear it on like Beggar's Banquet, I think, for the first time in '68.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's some of the symbols he has are just gorgeous. I mean, the hats are the classic. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
All of them they're just wonderful symbols. Yeah. His crowd roar on his right. What he's told me is that it's like the crowd roaring, and
Yeah.
It's a Swish, UFIP Swish 18 experience, or I like the experience, and it's the crowd roar over there. Which you
Yeah.
love. I like yeah, all sorts of good stuff.
Well, guys, I'm thinking we should probably wrap it up. Because we're going a long time and you guys probably are getting tired and thirsty. Any last words you guys want to offer? Advice to up and coming drum techs?
Find the best pub. Find the best pub in London. If you want to know, ask this man right here. Ask Yard. Then,
I don't really drink. I saw what it did to John when we used to go out.
Yeah.
But it's just luck, to be honest. There's no way of coming into the business, and it's just luck of who you meet and what you do, you know. I get asked a lot by people saying, how do I get in the business and how do I get to here? And I get calls from drum techs who say to me, you know, I want to go up to the next level. And really, there's no such thing. You know, it's kind of just do what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully one day someone will notice. It might take you a little while, but don't get impatient, you know. And the only way you can do it, you've got to be really calm as a person. So when something does happen, you don't panic. And that's probably your strong point. But I've always thought my strong point was being pragmatic and having a carpentry background,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that's really helped, because no matter what happens, you sort of think, I can fix that, I can sort that, you know, and that's it really. It's just stay calm, don't get too impatient, be nice to have around, and if people like you, they'll employ you.
Perfect. Yeah.
That's it really.
Yeah.
If they don't like you, you won't get it.
Yeah.
You know.
Don,
anything to add?
Well, you know, I think what we're dealing with right now with this pandemic and everything that's going on, I think it's going to be really tough for a lot of the younger guys that are coming up. I don't think that they've got a handle on what to do, because I shouldn't say a good enough handle if you haven't had enough experience of what used to be like.
Yeah.
Things were like pre, you know, this whole incident. I was out with U2 recently with Larry Mullen and helping out, just a quick little thing, and we had a fantastic tour. We all just talked about the next thing that's going to happen that I may or may not be involved in, but they said, the production manager said, just sharpen your skills, learn everything you possibly can, sound wise, just get involved. Don't let the sound man or the monitor engineer, you know, you have to be on the same wavelength. You have to be in the garden together. You have to work together, because you got to find, it's not about you, it's not about him, it's about the drummer that's going to be stepping up to that drum kit. And you have to really sharpen your skills. And if that means, you know, working in the sound world for a while, well, then you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to look and get involved in that. And we're fortunate to do that. But also, like Yard was saying, don't panic. You know,
if you panic, you're dead.
You don't do panic, because if you do, it's going to be noticed. You're going to be the guy running across the stage.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to poker face. They're trying to keep cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you an example. First of all, Don, I don't know why Sammy called you and not me.
I know. I helping him out, you know.
Me and Dallas.
Very last minute.
Yeah. No, but a few years back, we were on stage, and you probably get it as well, where everyone who's technical, because I don't do anything that plugs in unless it's my laptop, my coffee machine, or a drill. It's just like if there's electronics flashing away by the kit, I just think, nah, it's not me.
Yeah.
I'm an acoustic man, and it's never interested me. Still doesn't. And I'll do a little bit if the drummer shows me how it goes together. But if anything goes down, they know I'll just put my hands up. It's like, it's your problem, you know. Yeah. And but we were on tour, and we were doing an arena tour, and our monitor desk went down. Just all the lights went, and I just sat there in my chair, and there were people running around, stage spraying cable around and doing all sorts of stuff on the bus. They said, "Thanks for your help earlier." I said, "You know I don't know what I'm doing, so if I came and helped you, I'd just get in the way." So I left it to all the people that do it for a living, you know, and that's the way you should do it. If you don't know, keep out of the way.
That's it. That's exactly it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you're not helping, you're just getting on people's nerves by asking questions that you don't know anything about. And that's the way I do everything. But when it comes to drums, I don't want anyone coming to me either. It's just like, this is my gig, leave me alone. You do what you do and I'll do what I do. Because it throws your thinking.
My wife tells me that at dinner time every night. when I try to help her.
But that's it really. It's just like the way to get ahead is just like riding your luck, getting the calls. You know, we've all got where we are through someone giving us a call and a help, and then just being decent.
Yeah. Yep. Hey,
Simple
before I
as that.
forget, I hope you guys will tune in Saturday. I'm going to have Stan Lynch, original drummer for Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, on Saturday.
Yeah. Excellent drummer.
Excellent,
Yeah.
excellent guy.
Yeah.
So I want to put that out to everybody watching to tune in Saturday at 2:00. But you guys, this has been awesome. And hang on, I'm gonna end the live stream, and we can say goodbye in our private little Zoom room. But thanks everybody for watching. We're gonna sign off on the stream. Don't forget to tune in Saturday at 2 for Stan Lynch talking about Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers and all that stuff and everything he's been doing. And yeah, so see you all soon. All right.